I am Keith Barron. I am the CEO and Chairman of Aurania Resources, and I'm speaking to you from southern Ecuador. We have a very big project here, and I'm going to go through it and give you a good run through. So we'll get started right away. I will be making forward statements. So our project is both in Ecuador and Peru, down in South America. Just to introduce myself, I've been in the exploration business for 36 years now, and I co-founded Aurania Resources, my previous company, back in 2001. Sold it to Kinross for $1.2 billion after finding the amazing Fruta del Norte gold deposits, and that's in production. It's been in production since November of last year. Richard Spencer, my partner in crime here, is the president and director of the company, and he also has a tremendous amount of experience here in Ecuador. I have to be kind to him because he's actually in the room here. So he's responsible for the discovery of a number of copper porphyries, including Mirador, which is now in production, not by us, but by another group. And he also ran IAMGOLD's office here in Ecuador for about 5 years and found a very good gold deposit at the time. So we are doing an aggressive drill campaign right now. We've had a hiatus for the holiday, but we're just about to get started again. We have many projects, different styles of mineralization, actually 5 different types. Copper porphyry, and epithermal gold are our main focus points, but we also have an iron oxide copper gold IOCG analog sort of thing that we are flanging up into a drill target, and a high grade silver lead zinc. Now it says here management and board are well aligned with the shareholders. I don't see how we could even be more aligned. I own 45% of the company. I don't draw a salary. So I have a hell of a lot of skin in the game here. And I won't make money unless we make a discovery. And so we're bound to make this happen. I put in a lot of the early risk capital. Our insiders are roughly about 45%. Where we are, you can see my cursor here, this big red blob here down near the border. This is Peru here. There's a lot of activity in this area. In fact, there are 9 advanced projects to the south of us, including 2 operating mines. One of them is the mine that I found with my previous company, Fruta del Norte, that's here. And the other one is Mirador right here. That's a copper porphyry right now. But you can see, and any idiot can look at this and say, holy smokes, the trend is going this way up through our property. And indeed it is. And we're finding a bucket load of things on our project. People ask me what other companies, big companies, are in Ecuador. Well, you can see the names here. BHP is here, Lundin Gold, Newcrest is here, Anglo is here, Glencore is here, and a number of other players. So there's a lot of activity. This is a real hotspot for the world. It is a huge piece of land. It's 208,000 hectares. That translates to 500,000 acres. Here it is outlined in red. There is a fault line that goes across here. The Santiago River is right there. You see a lot of labels here because there's a lot of things that have been found, and there's a lot of orange. And the orange is granite basement, and a lot of this area has been eroded down to expose the gold systems and actually to erode away the gold systems. So there's a lot of placer gold down here, which brought the prospectors in a long time ago. This area on the other side of this fault is actually not dissected too much by erosion. There's one alluvial gold mine just on the edge of our property right here, which we don't own. But there is tremendous potential to find lots and lots of porphyry copper and epithermal gold in this stuff. And we'll run through the various things that we have been actually finding. So Ecuador, you can see this is a graphic from the 1980s. There's a hashed area in here because at the time it was projected that the porphyry copper belt that we see here and down in here would continue through this area. And in fact, this is what we're finding today. It's very, very exciting. Our board, we have a very, very strong board. You can see I don't have any relatives on here, so don't be alarmed. But you can download this and look at it at your leisure, and we have some of the best names in the business here and people who are very, very familiar to the street, and that's very, very important. So our different projects, gold, silver, copper, silver, we have a lot of different things to offer the investor and to offer at the end of the day the large companies that are kind of circling around here like vultures and seeing what they can pick up. As I said, you know, there's a number of major exploration companies already involved in Ecuador. So there's lots going on. So we've been chasing our original premise, chasing a couple of historical gold mines. We haven't found them yet, but we think we're very close. We have a silver lead zinc thing that looks like the Navidad deposit down in Argentina. It's over 15 kilometers long. We have porphyry copper. Solaris's Warintza discovery is really just on our southern boundary. And now they've got a market cap of 700 million. We expect, hopefully, we're going to do a similar sort of thing when we start drilling our porphyry targets and hitting these things. Then we have sedimentary hosted copper that goes for over 23 kilometers. That's 16 miles. 16 miles. It's a hell of a strike length. And we just recently found iron oxide copper gold, and we'll go into that a little bit. So this is what we're doing now. We have funding to drill 11,000 meters. We've drilled N2 and 3. We're just about to start drilling Senka North. This is a high-grade breccia pipe type target with some high copper numbers on surface, and then we'll move down through these. But the thing is, and there's our drill. So it's a lightweight man-portable drill. And we're doing what we call scout drilling. So we only do a couple of holes, then we move on to the next target because we want to get a taste of what's going on and see what's in the subsurface. This is not definition drilling. This is not blowing the entire budget on one project. We've got over 20 targets here. So we don't want to just blow it all on the first thing and then have nothing else later on. This is what we're doing. This is our wish list, and as I said, we've got over 20 targets, actually about 30. And to run through all these, it would cost about, it would take about 25,000 meters just to get a taste and see what's going on. We hope that over time we will get to all this, but this is the main problem that we have, and the challenge, I suppose, challenge in street speak. You can see it's like a big sea of broccoli here, and this is the South American jungle, and it covers everything. There is not a lot of outcrop. This is not like northern Canada. So what do? Well, this is our semi-secret weapon that we're using right now. This is called a mobile magnetotelluric system. It's a geophysical technique that we do by helicopter. This thing that looks like an old barrage balloon from the Second World War. Actually, it's suspended underneath the helicopter. This is a magnetometer in here, and then we run survey lines back and forth over this. And what we're doing, our targets are so damn big. Like I said, the copper and sediments is 23 kilometers long. Where do you put a drill hole in all that? Just, I mean, you have to narrow down. And the way we narrow down is by looking for conductors or areas that are resistant to current, because maybe silica flooding, something like that, and then we can better target. This is a graphic. A lot of people will be familiar with this, the Lassonde exploration curve, and I just want to mention our exploration philosophy here. Our company philosophy is we're about here, we think. We're moving up the discovery curve, and this is the point here where you want to either do deals with the major or do spin-offs or maybe even sales. And of course, because we've got such a big property, we have a lot of optionality here. This is a competitor company of ours in Ecuador, and you can see Discovery up here, Discovery up here. They made the original Alpala discovery here, and now recently the Porvenir discovery up here, and the curve has moved up again. But through all this, the definition drilling and infill drilling, the market doesn't really care, and you can see how it's sold off. We don't want to go there. And if anybody, if I start talking about putting anything in production in future, somebody kick me, because that's not what we're going to do. That is not our philosophy. This is what happened to Aurelian. It started out at 36 cents. It went all the way to $43. Unfortunately, we didn't sell it at the top. We sold it around 32, but you know, it was a hell of a win for everybody. That's what's possible on the exploration game. This is a shot of Silica Terraces, Yellowstone Park. This is the sort of thing that we're dealing at the Latoria Belt, Tincha, and whoops, sorry, just go back. This is a 60-kilometer long area, and as I said, we want to focus down, and we're doing that with the mobile MT survey. It's an incredible area of epithermal gold, silver pathfinders and silica terraces. This is what Terra Champion looks like. This is high-grade lead with silver in it. It is a fault system that is occupied by veins. It goes for over 15 kilometers. That is a very, very strong drill target. And hopefully there's going to be gold at depth as well. This is Senken, and we have been drilling these things, which we thought were porphyry. I put porphyry in quotes here, but as we found out, it's not porphyry. It's this type of IOCG thing, iron ore, copper, gold. This is where we're going to be drilling next, a breccia target here. And then there's this massive thing down to the south here that we're in the process of doing some mobile MT over, and we'll see where we are with that. You know, while we do this survey, a lot of things are going to be moving up and down in the priority scale, and this is what just makes sense. This is what IOCG looks like. This is a well-known one called Ernest Henry. This is in Australia. Our stuff, whoops, keeps flipping over here. Our stuff is on the right here. You can see a lot of iron flooding. I got to get moving here. This is what the copper and silver and sediments looks like. It's occupying shale and sandstone. And look at the numbers here. 3.62% copper, 104 grams silver, gross metal value $370 a ton. You can make a lot of money with that. So we need to find where the drill targets are going to be within the 16-mile trend of this stuff. This is where we are with these big magnetic targets. We have lots and lots of copper and silver and sediments around the area, and you can review some of these numbers later on at your leisure. We have gone ahead and done something very strategic. We have applied for over 400,000 hectares of land, which would make us the largest landholder in the whole of Peru. We filed for that last year. We're still waiting for it to come through. It's slowed down because of the COVID, like everything else. But these are areas that we have selected where the favorable stratigraphy, the favorable rocks come to surface, or they're very shallow. So we have selected all of these yellow zones going way down past Lima to the south. It is a big basin that trends all the way through Peru and well up into Ecuador. Very, very exciting. People ask us about the social situation in the area. Our properties, our stakeholders are members of the Shuar indigenous tribe. And this is us, this is me back in 2019. Here I am here cutting the ribbon on a new medical center for the Shuar. This is just one of our many, many projects that we have done, clean water projects. We brought in 18 tons of food when the COVID hits and these people were stranded. with no access to food. We brought in dry goods, 18 tons. That's a heck of a lot of material. So we're doing this stuff, and we are in a dialogue with these people every day. We employ more than 200 indigenous people within the company, and we train them up as geotechnical help. And most cases, we're the first people to provide gainful employment to anybody in some of these villages. They're quite remote. This is what our share breakdown looks like. We've kept it nice and tight. Our fully outstanding is 51 million shares. Basic outstanding is 44. Our share price, when we did this graphic just a couple of days ago, was $3.55. I own about 43% of the company. We're very proud to say that 6% of our shareholders are actually Ecuadorians, so they have a stake in this as well, which is wonderful. Our market cap is about 150 million, so we're doing quite well. So really, just to wrap this up, we are doing an aggressive drill program. We're not even a third of the way really yet. We started in September 2020. It was slowed down because of the COVID, like everything else, but it's gaining speed now. We are doing this mobile MT strategically on targets that we already have found through geochemistry, through previous geophysical surveys, and through geology that we have been doing all over the 500,000 acres. So we've got a lot of stuff, you know, and essentially the heavy lifting has been done on this thing. So now it's the truth machines there. We're drilling these things, and we expect to have, I expect to have a discovery soon, sooner rather than later. I'm hopeful, of course, and I'm motivated because I'm such a large shareholder to make it happen. So that's pretty much the rundown here, Mark. If you'd like to open it up for questions, please.
Sure. Thank you, Keith. I'm Mark Reichman, the Senior Research Analyst who covers the metals and mining sector at Noble Capital Markets. Also want to remind our viewers, if you have a question, please click on the icon in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and type in your question. So the first is, lately emphasis has been on the IOCG systems. What about the flat-lying sedimentary hosted copper?
Well, we're going to be getting to that very, very soon, because the next target is going to be the copper breccia pipes, breccia system that we see on surface, and then surrounding that is copper and sediment. Now, we're not doing a huge program on the copper and silver and sediments because, as I said, it is a very, very large area. So we have strategically done some geophysics over this area just in the last little while. There are targets that are showing up, and we're prioritizing those targets to drill.
Another question coming in is, how does Aurania decide between helicopter versus drone geophysics?
Well, this technique that we're using now, the MMT, you cannot use a drone. I have used drones in the past on other projects, but really you need line of sight. If you don't have line of sight, you're going to lose your equipment hung up in a tree somewhere, and it's going to be very, very difficult to retrieve it. And some of this stuff costs a tremendous amount of money. So really there's not a lot of techniques, and because of the weight of this thing, you really need to have a helicopter to do this sort of survey.
I think you've probably already addressed some of this next question, but can you talk about social license and the Shuar and the vocal anti-mining talk coming out of some Shuar organizations?
Well, there actually isn't a lot of anti-mining talk coming out of the Shuar organizations. It's coming out of two groups. The major group is a group called CONAI, which purports to speak for the indigenous population of the whole country. The people in our area in Ecuador, specifically in the villages in which we have contact and in which we work, reject this. They don't see these people to be their spokespersons. They don't even share a common language. Spanish is the second language, but the Shuar language has got nothing to do with these people who are Quechua speakers. They're mostly hill Indians, indigenous people from the Andes. So it's a very, very different thing. The Shuar are they protect their autonomy. And they don't want us to speak for them. They don't want anybody else to speak for them, as anyone else, most people would. We have worked very, very hard with the community. We continue to work with the community. And one thing that's very, very important to understand, Mark, is that at the end of the day, if we do find a mine and if it goes into production, it is written into the constitution of the country that the local population will get 5%, or they will get a 3% royalty, which is split between the province and the local communities. And that is essentially a hell of a lot of money. Fruta del Norte, it's just throwing off money right now. It's a heck of a lot of money for communities. They built new schools, they paved the roads, they built a hospital, and that thing's going to continue for another 15 years and just be throwing off money every month.
And the next question is, any interest from companies in joint venturing on the copper projects?
Well, all I can say is that we have a data room. We have some people in the data room right now. Of course, I'm not allowed to mention names. I can say, though, that pretty much every major company in the world and many who are working in South America have contacted us, and we've presented for them, and some of them several times. So the interest is there. I think personally, because of all this stuff that's been found to the south of us, and Warintza is really, really gaining speed, that this is going to be a major copper belt for the future of not just South America, but the whole world. This is where the green revolution is going to take place, because places like Chile and British Columbia are being depleted quickly. A lot of the mines are going underground, the open pits are exhausted, and this is the future. We haven't really scratched the surface in Ecuador. It's like the last frontier in the Andes. The last frontier for copper.
Well, just to follow up on that question, you mentioned kind of at the outset your primary targets would be copper, porphyries, and epithermal gold. Mm-hmm. And you've kind of had a bounty of riches here in terms of different types of systems. So when you think about kind of the IOCG and you've got the sedimentary hosted copper, and you've mentioned the breccias, which of those is the most, I guess, joint, which is of the highest interest to joint venture partners?
I would say potentially porphyry copper, because porphyry coppers tend to be very long-lived. Bingham Canyon's been producing since 1905, very, very long. But a typical porphyry copper mine might be 30, 40, 50 years. And this is what the industry is looking for. They're looking for long-term, long-term stuff for their balance sheets, and something that they can rely on with income coming in every year for a long, long time.
And there was a question asking for an update on the lost cities.
Aha. Well, we did the LiDAR survey. We didn't cover the whole property, just a few places strategically, because it is quite expensive to do. There are a few places that we found that are certainly of interest. If you've seen our press releases, Terra Champion has potentially some old Spanish workings. There's certainly a road right next to this thing. So we haven't been on the ground yet, specifically right into those areas to check them out. But had any of these outcrops been found, the high-grade stuff, back in the days of the Spaniards, they would have cooked the stuff in a crucible, recovered silver, and said, okay, we're going to put a little rat hole mine on these things. I've seen this stuff all through Central America and in South America. Wherever silver was found, the Spaniards would go ahead and sink a little shaft, just a small thing into it, and see what was going on. So there might be evidence of that here, somewhere along this 15-kilometer trend.
And I know the COVID situation is kind of what kind of kept you out of in terms of doing more exploration work in some of the epithermal gold targets. How is the situation there in the areas where you're working? Are conditions getting worse, stabilizing, getting better?
I would say that the situation is getting better. The Schwar initially back in March were actually terrified about this because in social media there were some irresponsible people saying that it was going to wipe them out like the smallpox back in the 16th century, 15th century. I'm glad to say that did not happen. There have been very, very few fatalities. And also the way that the demographics are, the population is generally very young. And as we know, young people are not affected by the COVID in the same way as us older folks. And you know, the Schwa are not all that concerned about it. In fact, they have a couple of remedies that they have come up with that are using herbs from the forest. And they say to me that within 2 days they're fixed up. I'd love to know what those herbs are so that I can market the thing. But yeah, no, so they're not overly concerned right now, and certainly the situation is improving, and we're getting into more areas to work.
And then when will assay results be available for holes 4, 5, and 6?
It should be coming very, very soon. That's all I can say.
Okay. And then a question came in asking about your funding needs for the remainder of 2021.
Well, we're okay for now, but as have said, towards the middle of the summer, we're going to need a cash up. Drilling is expensive. Helicopter drilling is even more expensive. So we don't have to move the drill every time we drill a hole with the helicopter because it's man portable. But you know, like any other junior company, you can't make discoveries unless you spend the money. So we will be requiring more money later on this year, but I intend to hopefully make some discoveries here, and we're doing it at a much higher price and not taking the dilution.
And so then the next targets would be Senken N1, and then following that, you're looking at kind of Terra Champion.
That's correct. Yeah, I would really like to get a couple of drill holes on that 15-kilometer trend. So right now we're in the process of selection, but we intend to do the mobile MT, at least a couple of lines over Terra Champion. We have not done that yet. We went back to Yowie and we had a look at that. So we're appraising that right now. But you know, we're looking at a number of different things. As I said, probably we're going to have to juggle the priority list here. It just makes a lot of sense.
Well, and you know, with Ecuador extending the initial exploration period, keeping those concession fees stable or flat for another year, does that impact how you're thinking about which concessions you maintain for another year and which ones you might potentially drop?
Well, actually, the way the thing works, Mark, is that, some concessions where we applied to do drilling, we couldn't get a water permit. So we couldn't go ahead and drill on that. And some of the stuff, depending on where it is, we're getting a 3-year extension.
Oh,
so anywhere from 1 to 3 years on the property. 3 years is just tremendous. And so this is going to enable us to finish the job and get the whole thing covered, at least first pass with the stream sediments. And, even today, we have crews out doing stream sediments, and we're finding more anomalies, more areas that require further investigation. The job is not done yet. So, when I said the heavy lifting is done, a lot of the heavy lifting, but not all of it yet.
And I know the focus, has really been in Ecuador, but the Peruvian project, or VICAS, that's been moving along pretty well, right, with the records that you've been able to access?
That's right. So we've got all the digital stuff. We've got a couple of people working on that material right now. So we're not on the ground. Peru's been hit a lot harder by COVID than Ecuador. And of course, we don't have the titles to these properties yet. So we're waiting on all this. Maybe it'll come as early as June, but we just don't know. So it's kind of wait and see mode, but we've got a heck of a lot to do, and I think we'll find out a lot of information when we start drilling holes in the stuff on the Ecuadorian side of the border that we can transfer over to the Peruvian stuff. We will learn a lot of information.
Well, Keith, I think that's about all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure.